In ancient times, the people of Israel lived as slaves in Egypt. The Israelites had multiplied so much that the Pharaoh, fearing their growing numbers, decided to enslave them brutally. Oppressed and forced to work under inhuman conditions, they built cities for Pharaoh and were subjected to whips and harsh punishments. The Pharaoh feared the increasing Israelite population even more, so he ordered the death of all newborn Hebrew boys by casting them into the Nile River. The hope of the Israelites seemed to fade as their prayers for deliverance appeared to go unheard. But amid this darkness, a new light was born. An Israelite woman gave birth to a son, and seeing that he was beautiful, she hid him for 3 months. When she could no longer keep him hidden, she made a basket of reeds, sealed it with tar and pitch, and placed the baby in the Nile River. The boy floated along the waters, carried by fate. On the same day, the Pharaoh's daughter was bathing by the Nile, and when she saw the baby in the basket, she had compassion. She took him in as her son and named him Moses, meaning drawn out of the water. Thus, the Hebrew boy, destined for death, was raised within the royal palace as a prince of Egypt. Growing up as a prince in Egypt, Moses led a privileged life. He was educated in the finest Egyptian schools and lived surrounded by wealth and power. However, Moses never forgot his true origins. He knew he did not belong to the Pharaoh's family, but to the oppressed and enslaved people of Israel. One day, while observing the Israelites at work, Moses saw an Egyptian taskmaster brutally beating a Hebrew slave. His heart filled with rage. In a moment of justice, he killed the taskmaster and buried his body in the sand. But the act did not go unnoticed, and soon the Pharaoh learned of Moses' actions. Fearing for his life, Moses fled Egypt and sought refuge in Midian, a distant and desolate land. In Midian, Moses found peace. He married Zipporah, the daughter of Jethro, a priest of Midian, and became a shepherd, tending the sheep of his father-in-law. For years, he lived a quiet life, away from the struggles and conflicts of Egypt. But Moses' destiny was far from being that of a simple shepherd. God had a greater purpose for him. One day, while shepherding, Moses saw something extraordinary. A burning bush, yet it was not consumed by the fire. Curious, he approached. From the midst of the bush, God spoke. "Moses, Moses!" Moses answered, "Here I am." God said, "I am the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I have seen the oppression of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cry, and I have come down to deliver them. Now go, for I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people out of Egypt." Moses, hesitant, argued with God, saying he was not eloquent and feared Pharaoh would not listen. But God assured Moses that he would be with him and empower him. He gave Moses powerful signs to show Pharaoh, including turning his staff into a serpent and making his hand leprous and then healing it. Reluctantly, Moses accepted the divine call. Moses returned to Egypt, accompanied by his brother Aaron. Upon arriving, they went straight to Pharaoh with a clear message from God. "Let my people go so that they may serve me." Pharaoh, with a hardened heart, refused to listen. Instead, he increased the burden on the Israelites, ordering them to produce bricks without providing the necessary straw. God then brought 10 plagues upon Egypt, each more severe than the last. The waters of the Nile turned to blood, swarms of frogs, flies, and lice invaded the land. A plague struck the livestock, boils covered the Egyptians, hail and fire destroyed the crops, locusts devoured what remained, and a thick darkness covered the land. But it was the 10th plague, the death of the firstborn, that finally broke Pharaoh's resistance. The angel of death passed through Egypt, sparing only the homes of the Israelites that had the blood of a lamb on the doors. Pharaoh, devastated by the loss of his own son, finally relented and allowed the people of Israel to leave. Guided by Moses, the Israelites hastily departed from Egypt, carrying their belongings and the spoils given by the Egyptians, who gave them gold and silver. They marched toward freedom, led by a pillar of cloud during the day and a pillar of fire at night. However, Pharaoh's heart hardened once again. He gathered his army and pursued the Israelites, trapping them at the edge of the Red Sea. With the sea in front of them and the Egyptian army behind, the people of Israel feared the worst. But God said to Moses, "Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea." Moses lifted his staff, and the sea parted, creating 2 towering walls of water, forming a dry path in the middle. The Israelites crossed the sea safely, But when the Egyptians tried to follow, the waters closed in on them, drowning Pharaoh's army. Moses and the people of Israel were finally free. They sang and praised God for the great victory and the deliverance from the grip of Egypt. Moses' story teaches us about faith, obedience, and the power of God. Even in the midst of oppression, God does not abandon his people. He heard the cries of the Israelites and raised Moses as the great liberator. Just as Moses, we may be called for great missions, even when we feel inadequate. We must trust in God, who always fulfills his promises. Hi guys, did you enjoy this incredible journey through the creation and story Moses? If it impacted you as much as it did us, don't forget to leave a powerful like. This really helps the channel continue to grow and brings you more epic videos like this. And of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, click the subscribe button and hit the bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. There are so many amazing stories emerging, and you won't want to miss them. So lend your support, comment below what you think, and join us on this journey.